Reddit by Reddit recap. People who proudly self-identify as a slut. What sexual experience are you most proud of? Most fun was probably being tied to a bed for a weekend and serving as entertainment for a party. Not sure exactly how many different people ducked me, but I think it was around a dozen. How does one get into this line of work? Probably a Yellow Pages ad. Having slept with 13 people in 2 years of being sexually active, 3 men 10 women. That makes me happy. Most proud? Making my new girlfriend come in under 2 minutes using only one finger. Since I was really nervous and it was our first time, I wanted to perform well. She was number 13. Edit. Nothing to see here lol. I had a one night stand with a girl. Drove home to my mother saying you're going to church, showered and cleaned up. Went to church and ended up getting head in the old sound booth while the choir sang glory to the Lord. Ended my weekend with a quick Tinder hookup car head before going to work on Monday. That ended up being the best weekend other than my birthday weekend. I lost my virginity in a threesome. In a tent. At a music festival. When I was 14. Was it 2 other 14-year-olds? Please be with 2 other 14-year-olds. When I was 18 or 19, a man in his 40s had messaged me on a dating website I was on. I was single and looking to ducking mingle. He propositioned me for money. He wanted me to meet up with him and blow him for cash. I had nothing else to do, so agreed. When I was close to the location and he spotted me, he texted me to follow him but keep a distance. We ended up in a supermarket bathroom where I was on my knees in a second sucking this stranger's big dick. It took him less than 5 minutes to come and I swallowed it all. He handed me the cash, thanked me, and walked out so I could tidy myself up, reapply the PETC. Afterwards we both ended up next to each other buying a drink at the self-service checkouts. We never exchanged looks or talked since. TL. Doctor, I blew a dude twice my age for cash once. Had a situation worked out with a neighbor that I was attracted to, where he would come over and go down on me on his lunch break while I was getting ready for my shift. We'd watch each other's cats when the other person went out of town. We never communicated unless it was about pussy eating or pussy watching. Best relationship I never had. I had a similar neighbor. She would call me after a date left and ask me if I had enough to round 2. Had a completely neighborly relationship apart from that. Alas, she moved to Texas. Wasn't trying to be a slut at the time. Was actually quite the opposite. But the summer between community college and uni I had a polyamorous relationship with my friend and her girlfriend. I lost my virginity to her girlfriend. Then would go out with my friend or visit her girlfriend on the weekends. All culminating to a threesome weekend with them where I knocked everything off my bucket list. That summer was 0 to 100 for sure. And I will never forget it. Unfortunately now I'm a sad man who just got dumped recently after a long-term relationship. But I'm trying to get my game back and keep that experience in mind as reassurance. So I know I can be single again. Well, my husband and I technically ducked on the first date. We were in high school. Granted, we'd been together for 7 months or so, but hadn't been allowed out on a date because his mom hated me. So when she finally relented and let him use the car on a Sunday to take me out to eat, we immediately found a vacant parking lot at the local junior high and smashed in the backseat to Metallica. Then we got ice cream. Either the threesome or receiving head while standing upright on the rooftop of a college building during sunrise. Or possibly the time I spent a year living with FWB partners to avoid living out of my car. Although that was actually a very quasi-domestic sort of dynamic. Not exactly slutty. However, after some thought, the sexual experience I'm probably the most proud of is when I gave my now ex-girlfriend 12 consecutive orgasms. She had never climaxed with a partner before we started dating. Although we definitely both identified as slutty individuals. After it was over, all the windows in her apartment were completely fogged up. And ever since that night she refers of that event to her friends as the 12. Don't qualify to be called a slut, but I did duck my boyfriend the first night we met. He was just so goddamn hot and I couldn't stop thinking about him banging me. I hadn't had much sex before him, so I never really spread my wings and became a slutterfly. And I don't ever intend to now. I slept with 2 guys in 24 hours. Both for the first time. Both of them were called Maximum. I kept hooking up with both. But when inebriated I would forget which Max was which in my phone. So I would basically toss a coin and pray I had the one I wanted that night coming over. My slutty phase began with a game where the 2 of us, after Thanksgiving, on an abandoned college campus because neither of us went home, took a twister board and covered half of it in vodka shots. And you had a choice between a shot or a blank space where you'd have to take off an item of clothing. 10/10 recommend strip drink twister. I'm proud of that one because it's what finally got me comfortable with just doing whatever I want. Went on to fool around another like 8 months. Won't get into the slutty details about everyone else I was fooling around with in those 8 months. I even got to have a mini reunion a couple weeks ago after not seeing him for 2 years, which felt like a nice bow to wrap up my slutty phase with. Edit. Took out a tidbit of almost self-identification. Edit 2. Added a detail. I'm a girl from the States and Elle was ducked against the Hallgrímskirkja church while on vacation in Iceland by an attractive Croatian man who whispered in my ear, "I bet you weren't expecting this during your vacation." It was 5 AM because that's when the bars close there and basically broad daylight because the sun doesn't fully set that time of year. I ducking love Iceland. I have 2. I mentioned one before on Reddit. When I was in college, an older classmate kept hitting on me. In the heat of the moment, I asked if he wanted a BJ. Straight after class I blew him in his car in the dead heat. It'd been a while since he had any sexual contact with a woman. He was old enough to be my dad. The second experience was finally getting cream-peed. It has always been a fantasy of mine. I usually don't let guys in me without a condom, but I trusted this guy. I begged for it and got loaded. 10/10 would do it again. I once had a friend with benefits. She would occasionally bring a friend along. One such time they both stayed the night. And we continued things in the morning. Which was awesome. They went their way and that night my ex called for a one-night rebound. And that's how I slept with 3 women in one day on accident. On accident? Sounds pretty intentional to me, haha. Had a threesome with my ex with a les. The les claimed she only wanted to duck me and we were both cool and understanding of that. She ended up, in the heat of the moment, asking him and asked me if it was okay if he would duck her, and it was so ducking hot. Then when we were done, she starts ducking seizing. Like a straight up mild seizure. I went into first aid mode and she was able to come out of it in a matter of minutes. I'd like to think we ducked a girl together so well that she had a seizure. Me and my ex ducked on a pile of clothes near a train station downtown. At 8 in the morning. In full view of office buildings. In my party days I once managed 3 guys in one day. And on my birthday at that. The first guy was actually planned. He was a longtime friend with benefits. The second guy was a definite surprise because I'd been crushing on him for months, and when I ran into him while getting a coffee he said he'd love to give me a birthday massage. Well, I live just around the corner so I invited him over. The third guy was another friend with benefits at my birthday party that night. He dragged me away during the festivities and bent me over my dryer. I told the other 2 guys about the previous adventures and I showered between each guy and used protection. It was a fun day. I ducked a dude several times in the show apartment in my complex BC. We didn't have anywhere else and I didn't wanna duck in his car. So we broke in. We dated for 9 months after that. 3 years ago I was at work. In the auto accident industry. Faxing a dealership in the area that we worked with. I got a call from a woman asking for invoices for our mutual customers. After sending them over to her, She called back and asked for a couple more. She had a very sexy sounding voice. And she sounded like she was in my general age range. I knew most of the people who worked at this location. But she did not sound familiar at all. A few days prior to this I was at the dealership she worked at and saw someone who looked amazing from the back, all I could see of her, talking to their parts department. The only reason someone would talk to parts with a clipboard in hand would be if they worked there. Every other woman who worked there was in their 40s or up. So during the phone call I decided to start flirting. Praying to sweet Jesus it was her. I sent her the invoices with funny self-portraits of me drawn on them. Doing winky faces and weird shit like that. She called back to say she liked the pictures but thinks we shouldn't do that on work documents. So she gave me her number to text her. We exchanged Instagrams after a couple messages and I was right, it was the girl with the hourglass A classes from the day past. We both got off work at the same time. Went and got a few drinks. And then it was back to her place for some certified fornication. She drove me back to work the next morning, and when my boss asked who dropped me off and why my car was still there, I had to explain that our professional relationship with the dealership down the street had evolved into a sexual relationship. TL. Doctor, in 2015 I faxed my way into bed with someone. A feat that, if ever, was likely last accomplished somewhere before 1999. Best comment of the day. I was seeing this girl for a couple of months and her best friend did not like me at all. No idea why. My GF at the time tells me that this girl hates me. So I make it my mission to find out why. So anyway, long story short, I find out this girl like BDSM. I hatch a plan. I text this girl pretending I'm texting SMS my girlfriend with things that I would do to her BDSM wise, and then pretend that I sent it to the wrong girl. Goes like this: oh crap, sorry, I sent that to the wrong person. Her, it is okay, you can carry on. Me, I want to tie you to a tree and whip you, thing escalate, and I arranged to meet her. I arranged to meet her at the local park, where I put a dog collar on her and tell her to suck me off. Trains are going by and people are walking past. She sucks me off, and I do her against a tree. The best sex I have ever had. She is chained to a tree and is treated the way she wants and like to be treated. We end up in a relationship. Best thing of all, I had to go to work that night with all this BDSM shit in my bag. Whips, chains, dog collars and vibs in my bag. I worked for a very large supermarket in the UK and they would have random bag searches. So the morning on my way out of work they decide to search bags. First time for me, so I'm hanging back being the last one out. The poor hour woman is like, please show me your bag, me. You don't want me to open it. She says it is company policy, me. If you insist. I proceed to empty my bag of dildos, whips, chains, collars, cuffs, and anything and everything to do with BDSM. The spills out all over the floor. She went red, and she did not look me in the eye. When she told me to leave, I was never searched again, and was always asked to come to the front of the line. Best and most embarrassing day of my life. Lion, if you read this, thank you.